Released in 2008 after a very rocky production schedule, Ong Bak 2 is set hundreds of years prior to the events of the first film, although you wouldn't really know it was connected to Ong Bak in any way if not for the title. Now, there are two cuts of this film, but for this review, I'm looking at the original theatrical cut that was released in Thailand. Based on my research, the alternate cut, which was produced by EuropaCorp, features differences that are mostly negligible. The cut is shorter than the theatrical version, and it kind of feels like you're watching the film on fast forward, but beyond that, it's essentially the same film. While the previous film featured a stock but entertaining story that connected a string of intense fights, the story in Ong Bak 2 is best described as ambitious but unfocused, so I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. The film follows Tien, played by Ja, the son of a commander in the kingdom of Ayutthaya who was forced to flee after a rival commander killed his family. After a series of mishaps, he's taken in by the leader of a band of outlaws who train him in various forms of martial arts, not just limited to Muay, as we see elements of Kung Fu as well as Japanese Kenjutsu. Once fully grown, he embarks on his mission of revenge against the commander who killed his family. Sounds straightforward, right? Well, this film takes a really long time to actually tell you its premise, as Tien's backstory is fed to you piecemeal between various fights and action set pieces that ultimately go nowhere and accomplish nothing. Alright, so the story is crap, but what about the action, I hear you ask? Well, there are a number of impressive fights. Quite a number of them, in fact. So much so that I actually found myself getting bored while watching the film, as some of these action scenes go on a lot longer than they need to. They introduce a bunch of interesting ideas and even some interesting characters, but it throws so much at you that over time it just becomes a whole lot of nothing. The fatigue really begins to set in during the final moments of the film, as Tien undergoes a brutal gauntlet upon returning to the village of the outlaws. Fighting opponent after opponent, we see him take a few lucky shots and ultimately get brought down, only for the final fight to throw in a last-minute twist that, while unpredictable, feels like it was thrown in at the last minute to give the fight some sort of emotional weight. It doesn't help that this film ends on a cliffhanger. Overall, Ong Bak 2 is a mess. While the action looks great, great action does not a great movie make, especially with a story as bloated and unfocused as this film's is. It has some inklings of greatness, like they pulled from a bunch of different inspirations, but couldn't put them together into something that actually worked. If you're a martial arts fan, then you'll probably enjoy the action scenes in this film, as they are top-notch, and it shows a great range of skill on the part of Tony Jaa. But if you're going into this film expecting anything beyond that, you'll be severely disappointed like I was.